be a continuation of my Americana series, or really the Americana routines is what I'll be talking about. And I call it Americana because it's a blend of different American styles, jazz, blues, and more specifically Boogie-Woogie. Now, there's different hierarchies of how that works. Typically blues is kind of the big umbrella and then everything else falls in there. You can call them subgenres. But regardless, I'm going to continue this. Now, in the blues style, or this Boogie-Woogie style, I have a personal preference to learn through imitation. So I do collaboration with other performers and teachers to kind of take notes from each other and collaborate together to put together little parts. Now, obviously, this type of music you can use sheet music with and play, but I find it more productive, surprisingly, and more fun to just look at a routine that somebody does and then put it all together. Now, that's why I would think this type of music is very different than a traditional sight reading music where you're reading it and playing it. This is much more free form. This is not for everyone, but for someone like me, I really like this. I like to take a break from classical music or the Christian music I play or whatever, ballads, and I want to get into stuff like this just to have fun and stretch out my fingers. So today I'm going to continue talking about the routines in Americana. Last time I talked about the C blues scale, and that was C, E flat, F, F sharp, G, B flat, C, and then back down. And there's a lot of great things you can do with that. I also talked about doing a simple bass line with like a C, for example, and then walking up. Okay, we also talked about doing a chord progression. So for example, going to C, and then to F, and back to C, and then over here to G, F, C. And that's of course based on a template 16-bar blues, and there's different advantages to that. So I want to introduce a couple of new tricks today. And so don't think of this video as more of a teaching video, think of it more as a collaboration. I'm going to show you some little tricks, and we're going to add more tools to your toolbox for blues itself. Now obviously I'm going to be teaching these routines, but they're more of caught than really taught. So instead of just doing this, I'm going to introduce you to a new way of doing it. So for example, it's C and G together, C and A together, C and G. In Boogie-Woogie or blues, you need a very strong foundation for a bass line because it's going to really make the difference. Because with the right hand, I mean, you can do a lot of great stuff, but it's great to have that bass line. So we start out simple like this. There's different ways you can do it, different fingering if that you want, and then you go into it. With this type of music, simply put, you just have to repeat the same thing over and over and over and over and over to get it right. It's not like sheet music where it's all laid out for you. This type of music, you just have to get them so well down that your hands can't mess it up. Now, what I obviously like to do is I like to do a doubling. So I like to go, so I'm hopping it. I'm going C and G together, C and A together, C and G. So if I bring it down here, it's going to sound much better. So that's a great bass line. Another one, if you want more of a challenge, you can go and take it to the dominant 7. Listen to that sound. Go up to F. That's the dominant 7 of the F. So and then of course you can do the G. That F right there is actually the dominant 7 of the scale. Now, how do you do that? How do you know that? You get the 8th of the scale minus 2 semitones, and there you go. That's the 7. Now, for this, I actually prefer the scale of G. So for doing stuff like this, I like doing it more. Instead of down here, I like bringing it up here. I like G better. And for your information, the G scale starts here. Actually, let's start down here. So G, B flat, C, C sharp, D, F, G. You're gonna notice that this might be a little bit of a overwhelming amount of stuff that I'm showing you, but it's just adding more tools to the toolbox. It's not gonna be something that you're gonna learn overnight. I mean, that's with anything with music, but especially this, you just have to make the connections, the relationship connections between different styles in the right hand, different styles in the left hand, and different bass lines. So there's numerous things you can do, but I wanted to make sure, for going back to the C scale, I wanted to at least make sure I showed you this routine. Another fun one is this one. You go C, G, E flat, E. And then bringing it down. But I always found that one to be a little bit too muddy in the harmony. That's why I like playing in G better than I C when I do stuff like this. Now, in other ways, I do like playing in C in different types of routines. So let me show you another routine that instead of just doing a generic, well, still gonna be a generic bass line, so it's gonna be based on something like Heart and Soul. So Heart and Soul, the chord progression is gonna be C, A, F, G. And with that chord progression, you can still use that as a bass line. You don't necessarily have to do the right melody with it. Because obviously with Heart and Soul, it's gonna go. But I don't have to do that, I can do something different. Because you're gonna get bored really quick if you keep doing the same thing. Another one I'm gonna show you is just playing 7 chords in the left hand. So a C7. I'm gonna show you, I think this might be a second inversion F chord, and this might be a second inversion G7 chord. I'd have to double check. But anyways, doing these right here. So here's a great way to do it. You go C7, C, E, G, and you're gonna go F7, which is C, E flat, F, A, and then D, F, G, B. So it's gonna sound like this. Back up to G. So for example, make it your own. This type of music, these types of routines, it's really designed for you to improvise on it and make it your own. So a lot of times I try to teach my students to take yourself outside of the sheet music. I think that every pianist should have an ability to play music outside of sheet music and outside of memory too. I don't necessarily want you to play by just memorizing a song. Create music. And so a fun thing I like to do with my students sometimes is they'll pick 4 random keys in the piano and I turn it into a song. So this is something that it's difficult to just have you be taught it. You just have to kind of experiment with it. I can kind of show you the way, but really I want you to start getting yourself and putting yourself in front of a piano and making yourself play for 5 or 10 minutes and poking at different things and just seeing what works, and just over time it all blends together. So that's really what I want to talk about today. I know that was a lot and I know I was going really fast, but that's my continuation of the Americana techniques and routines. Thank you.